right. Hey, y'all. Hey, welcome back to A Good Things Marriage Chats. I'm Tiara.
And I am Adrian. Welcome
back
to this Tuesday evening of wonderfulness. We hope that you guys are ready for some good tips and some guidance and some wisdom and some big mama love. But before we introduce her for the second time, because this ain't the first time that she's been on here, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Put some comments and things down there. Share the videos. Do all the things. Do all of the things so that you can stay part of our community.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
We love y'all here.
Yes. So let's go ahead and jump right in. You see her. She's beautiful. She's my mama. She just
she her mama. She my twin.
Right. She just let Tiara come around sometimes. We have Dr. Mama T, A.K.A. Dr. Tracy Times. Welcome, Dr. Mama T.
Mama A.
Thank you, ladies, so much. Thank you for having me. It is my pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
So we do want to highlight and acknowledge that Dr. Mama T just recently graduated with her doctorate from Cohen Institute.
You.
And share with everyone what your degree was in.
Well, I am, first let me give my gratefulness to God for this extremely long journey. And just briefly will share how God had, started the journey with Bible College some years ago. I want to say like 2009. I've been off and on in 2009 in between there with some experiences, with some lessons, because he give very real experiences with the lesson. I found that out. Whatever you're studying, you have to be going through. And then I just looked up and the dean was asking, so who's graduating? And I was like, let me see how many credits I got. I had been to school so long. I was like, oh, I'm here.
Yep.
And calculated the credits, and there it was. I just realized I just enjoy the study. I enjoy what God pours. Like if you come to him with an open mind, baby, he will blow your foundation from up under you and give you a new one.
Yes.
So I'm grateful to him. Just grateful to God for that. So that's my appreciation to my father for just, like I had a coworker I was talking to yesterday, and he just said, when you follow God, you never know what you get on the path. It's so amazing. You just don't know what you will arrive to on his path. And just a AAA man to him, what he said.
Yeah.
All
right. So your degree was in?
Again. So my degree is in Kabbalah research.
Okay.
A lot of people know Kabbalah to be called Rhema. Oftentimes when people say Rhema word, I got a Rhema word, or they use Rhema in their reading or text or whatever, it still is A.K.A. Kabbalah, which basically is like the receiving from the spirit of the spiritual world.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to ask you about your book information, but we'll wait to the end on that so you can share with our community.
Yes.
All righty.
So let's dig and dive in, because we're not doing a
no love bite.
No love bite today. Okay. Yeah. So
we got some meat and potatoes.
Got some meat and potatoes.
Yeah. It might be lean because Tiara's doing the lean thing. Lean meat.
She's doing it with me.
Some kind of lean meat for Tiara and a potato for me.
Here I was thinking she was doing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway. I did a good 2 days. And I was like,
all right. So today we're talking about the importance of the difference with a parent raising a child, whether it's the female or the male, the son or the daughter, because there's definitely differences as far as what they need, whether we consider female, male energy, there's definitely some differences. So, you guys know this is my mommy. And so I felt like that she did a great job in raising us, and, she would definitely be a great example to kind of share with us her own experience about what that looks like. So first, can you tell us from your opinion the importance of motherhood and share that with our viewers?
Yes.
I most certainly would. There is always, and I'm gonna go back just a little bit, that initial excitement slash confusion when you discover that you're pregnant, however way that that happened. Sometimes it's planned, sometimes it's not planned. You got the oh my God with the throw up at the same time. And so and so it will be to our benefit to have somebody alongside of us kind of explaining what's taking place, especially the first time, because you know the first time you become pregnant, your body is like it's some kind of foreign object inside of you. You know, what is this? You know, and then I've learned that that's what contributes to the regurgitation because your body's trying to fight off what's been planted.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So that's that initial experience and learning how your body reacts to it and what food you like, so on and so forth. And then there is a time and there's a space when once you can get over the upheaval of all of the sicknesses that take place, you become curious about the soul that you're carrying.
Yeah.
And then you have those thoughts about like, man, you know, I know when we were coming up, there was ultrasounds, but there was not ultrasounds being taken like it is today because you can make an appointment tomorrow and get one, and then next week you want to know that you can get that one.
Yeah.
But in our time, you can may have one, maybe two. And it was always the one to make sure that there was the baby's health. And if the doctor didn't have any suspicion, he didn't see fit for you to go have another one. So sometimes people didn't know the gender, you know, if it didn't present itself that first time, you didn't know what that gender was, but it raised that curiosity will raise so high within yourself. And that instinct begins to be birthed along with that child. And you start thinking, you know, if it's a girl, man, I wonder what she would look like. You know, you start planning in your head what you would like for her to be. And, you know, just all of these thoughts running back and forth. And so those are the intimate moments. Like I said, once you get past the sickness and all of this old stuff, you really start thinking about that person you're carrying, you
Yeah.
know. And then you kind of turn your head, and I think this is something God gives the moms because we could be thinking, I wonder if it's a girl, and we'll hang on to the girl, and then it turns out to be the girl. And if we hang on it being a boy, it turns out to be the boy. And so I think instinctually we know, you know, who and what we're carrying.
Mhm.
And we may even have some idea about that soul, but we get the full effect once that baby is born, you know. And it also gives us some idea about that person in the labor. And I found out that the laboring portion really gives us an idea on on this person's life journey.
Mhm.
Like I learned that you know, we can have a labor and it's not so bad, and after we spend some time raising that child, we can see that you know they have their ups and downs. You know, correction have to be made, so on and so forth, but they're not the hardest to raise. And then in labor, you say, "Oh my God, do whatever you got to do to take this child out." It really kind of mimics the life that they live. There's some things that I've learned and observed, you know, through conversation and talking with people, that the labor pain is a message to the
Mhm.
child's life. But then there is that additional discovering who this person is that God has given you. You know what that characteristics that they have to work to develop their own personal characteristics, their personality. You know what's in that soul. We can even go to, has this child been here before? You know what what are they bringing back? And so there are some parts that we could work to try to contribute to this soul. And there are some parts where the soul already is made up, you know. And so, in fact, they begin to tell us who they are. You know, we're already on a 1,000 ready to give them all the love we possibly can give. And as much shaping with as much hope and direction as we can give them. But in fact, that child is teaching us who they are.
Mhm.
And so initially I was thinking, I remember one of the times I had Tiara already, and then I was getting ready to have my second child. And in my mind, I was thinking, I kind of got an idea what this is like. And, you know, because I had a baby and I knew what it was to get up at night and feed and burp and watch. And, my firstborn opened up my eyes to everything. So I'm thinking the second one, I got this a little better. And when she came in the world, she's like, no, you don't.
Okay.
And so that in that case, it wasn't even a matter of gender. This was female, female. It wasn't female and male. And so those things that I had learned from my firstborn and, awakening my motherly skills and my intuitions and all of those things that God gives a mom to raise their child, it really was kind of going out the door because this was a completely different person. And so I was grateful for what I had learned from my firstborn, but I was like, God, I don't know what's going on here. I had to say it like, and it was strange to say that I had birthed another child and I had to figure this soul out, this whole person. And, back then, there wasn't a lot of people talking that way, just trying to be more specific as to who this person was and what that soul was. A lot of the teaching, especially coming from my parents' generation, was the parents do the shaping and the molding, but the shaping and the molding is as it relates to who that person is, not what you want to force them to be.
Wow.
So that was a huge part of that, as far as the female was concerned. And then there became my third child, which was my son, which his labor was easy breezy. And then so I realized that raising him was not going to be hard. I had to learn that it wasn't going to be hard, but the challenge was he's a man, he's not a woman.
Yeah.
He has a different need, you know. And there is that generalized, with some of the male population, they're not quick to consult females about things. But I'm still the curious mom, like I'm gonna get it out of you some type of way because I see you have a need type. And so it becomes that creativity. That's another, one of part of the attributes of our intuition. God gives us permission to read that soul and read what's there. And that's how we know that there is a need there or something is wrong. They don't have to be in our presence. They could be in another country and we're like, oh, I need to call my child, something going on.
Yeah.
He gives us that through the intuition, and that's what gives us uh, a heads up or 2 steps forward in providing what they need, and asking God, he needs something different, how do I give that to him as a mother, or so on and so forth. So it depends. It just kind of depends. 3 children, 3 different people. Five children, 5 different people. And then there's the male and female aspect and what comes in that.
Yeah.
So
So
it's a big deal.
yeah, so when it comes to because you've kind of touched on the motherly instinct part as well. Um, let's go back a little bit as far as like the importance of motherhood. How do
Mhm.
you feel that mothers impact their children, how greatly they can impact them, whether that's from the daughter or the son or the son's side? Because the same way we're looking at comparing, raising these two, it's also a matter of
Mhm.
these two are seeing and what they get need wise from these two. So, from the mother perspective, what does that mother give, in your opinion, and the importance of it?
Some things she has to learn before she can give it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, say in my unique case, my mother was old fashioned. My parents was old. My mother was 36 when she birthed me. So when she's 56, I'm 20. So there was some things that I didn't get from her that I had to, in fact, learn through teaching my kids. And so that's what really kind of developed my motherly instinct, the interaction with them, the conversation, the watching them, learning how to listen, what are they really saying, trying to get behind what their needs are, because in fact, they're kids too. They're trying to figure it out. And me as a mother's trying to figure it out. And when I say, okay, God, I need help here, then he's developing my motherly skills that helps me to begin to help my child. So that was the way I knew I was giving him what was right.
Mhm.
It was consulting him while he was developing me as a mother. And then when I would see, and sometime there would be a case where God would say, no, you could be asking for something or wanting to go somewhere or whatever. And it seemed to be okay. But consulting him is like, God, what do I do about this? And if he said no, I had to say no without even knowing why I was saying no. But if the result of it would show up later, I'm like, oh, that's why he said no. And so he trained me to
Mhm.
trust him, to listen to him, and then, showing the results of why, yes, it's not always the best thing. And, if feelings got hurt, let it be hurt. It was for the best. And then that in turn, in a mother child relationship, taught the child to trust the mother while the mother was learning to be a mother, developing the skills from God.
Mhm.
Like, what do I need? Like, because I wasn't the mother that wanted to pull from somebody else, especially if I didn't admonish them as a mother. If
Right.
I didn't admonish your skills as a mother, I wasn't going to ask you anything.
Yeah.
I wait on God to tell me.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Mhm.
I want to touch on, I know you didn't bring this up, but you shared it with me before about a particular show that you used to watch that you felt helped guided you, that was giving, godly advice on raising children as well.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and just giving you, pointers, which, we talk about here all the time, how important it is to have a village, to have
Yeah.
community, to have,
Mhm.
resources. And, God can use those things to help you if you're not sure, if you're not clear, if you're learning how to listen to him and what that means. And sometimes
Mhm.
we need him to just drop things in
Right.
front of us.
Right.
You know,
Mhm.
you could be on social media or whatever, and the show pops up. Oh, look at
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
does it in
Mhm.
different ways. So, you know,
For sure.
kind of encourage some of our parents as well. Like, don't be afraid to um, seek healthy guidance, wisdom, because as she was sharing, she didn't necessarily have the best from her own parents. And of course, it's from because of the experience that she had or what she had to give. And we're all giving what we have to give.
Yeah.
So it's nothing wrong with trying to learn from others and asking God to direct you to those people, to that
Mhm.
circle, to those villages of people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
So,
give I give my shout out to, so one of the benefits of me running across that radio broadcast, and it was Dr. James Dobson, Focus on the Family. And
Oh,
he used to come on every day at 10 a.m. in the morning. And at the time, I was working for the Missouri Department of Transportation, and I didn't realize initially that I was going out to go to a job site every day about 10 o'clock, and then the radio would be on, and I'm listening to him while I'm headed there. And I was like, oh, wow. I saw the synchrony.
yeah,
God had synced those two things together, and he was feeding me. And every time their series would last like 15, 20 minutes. It was just a loaded information for that short period of time. But it always had an assignment after I listened to them.
mhm.
After I listened to that series, I remember one of them being, and I heard this several times, not just with Dr. James Dobson, but I remember hearing it at Cohen Institute as well. We have to be mindful that our children in the kingdom of God, there is no aunties, uncles, nieces, nephews. We're all his children. And that even meant for the ones we birthed into the world. So in this world, there's mom, dad, and, sister and brother. But however way we raise them, we have to raise them as God's child. And so we have to be mindful of the strategy we use. This is a soul still, this precious soul that God has given us to shape and to prepare them for their journey in this life. Be careful how you treat them. Be thoughtful how you treat them. Make sure what we're giving them to develop them and to share with them is in line with God. He welcomes correction. So it didn't mean don't pop the behind when it was necessary, or like some people time out or whatever was unique to them. But I that it did a shift in my mind, like, wow, not just my baby and what I want her to do and what she gonna do, and how this gonna be. And it was like she belonged to God. It's like
hmm
it was almost like, oh, you better be doing this right.
Yeah. I think about that every day. Like I always tell Cortez, like, it ain't no handbook. to raising
Mhm.
these little people, because it's not,
Yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
are two totally different type of personalities. And so we're learning
Yeah.
how to, parent them the way that they need to be parented. We don't always get it right, but we're like
Mhm.
open to learning and, doing things differently from what, how we were raised or what we were taught, because we want
Mhm.
to make sure that, when they get older, we're not like the ones that, they're the reason why they're going to therapy. Now, there are some things where I'm like, dang, my therapy bill is just getting higher and higher. Because I already know, nah, you going to therapy. It could be
Mhm.
somebody said something to you on the playground and it hurts your feelings.
Mhm.
Let's go to therapy about that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we try to make sure that, we parent in a loving, gentle way and still
Mhm.
like teach boundaries. And we're still learning. Like they're just
Mhm.
4, 5, and 8. So
Yeah.
we're still
Mhm.
learning how to parent, these
Yes.
And
particular people.
and one
Mhm.
thing that I've learned in the journey so far too is, the same way we've kind of hinted about with marriage, that God is growing us and teaching us to be in this relationship with this other soul, this human being that is exposing things, traumas, triggers,
Mhm.
us to figure out what we truly do like and don't like as all those things change and we transition. It's the same way with parenthood.
Mhm.
To learn yourself more.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
things still are going to come up that maybe you hadn't dealt with in your own childhood,
Mhm.
up for you, because there may be things that maybe in your head you like decided, I'm not going to do this. This is
Right.
not going to be
Mhm.
like this. I won't make my son, my daughter feel this way.
Right.
Um,
Mhm.
but just because you're saying that doesn't mean
Yep.
it won't come up in some way that you're not really recognizing.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
we have to be mindful even in those matters of correction or
Yeah.
whatever. Okay,
Mhm.
let me take a step back. Let me check where I'm at. Let me check my
Mhm.
emotions,
Absolutely.
feelings, and all of that, because I don't want
Mhm.
to project. I don't want to,
Mhm.
put anything on them just because of how I felt
Right.
in a moment when I was
Mhm.
triggered or anything like that. So,
Mhm.
um,
And I'm quick to be like, I'm sorry. Mommy didn't mean to. Mommy wouldn't think straight. I'm quick to,
Mhm.
quick to do
Yeah.
it.
yeah,
And they go, I love you, mommy. I'm sorry that I made you mad. And
yeah,
I'm like, well, mommy, I'm learning how to control my big feelings like you will.
yeah,
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. It's that, and it's that unique part, like I was sharing, and I know when I say I'm sharing for every mother that has more than one child. You don't have the same person in your household, and then the correction has to be so unique. And then sometimes there could be the case where you have one that won't take correction at all, and so you can, you still consult God, you still ask for direction, you still, and like, just like people in the world that tell God no every day, you'll find somebody in your household to do the same thing. And sometimes you have those moments like, Lord, what am I not doing? Or what am I missing? Or is it something else I could do? Or you just ask a million zillion questions, because motherhood is so valuable to me and a host of other mothers. It is one of the most valuable tasks you could have, to be trusted, not just with raising that soul, but carrying that soul and connecting with that soul in your womb.
yeah,
There's transference going on right there. You're communicating right there, even to the point of that soul selecting what they want to eat, and you got to chew it up and swallow it for them.
Right.
So much go on between you and that child. And when you're carrying them in a room, and then when they make their exit and you see this soul in front of your face, you're asking that question. You're still thinking initially, I'm gonna give them the best, I'm gonna give them this, and I'm gonna learn who they are, and I'm gonna do all of this. And sometimes you got, nope,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do it, no
Yeah.
matter how much you exhaust yourself. And then you have to be mindful, at a certain point, I gave them all I had.
Yeah.
It's not an easy task. Some will make you feel like, yes, she got it. Thank you, God. Oh, you can come to me and talk when you need some information, but other than that, I don't have to keep trying to offer some direction. But then you got the one that's like, I never expected that to happen.
Right.
And you have to be okay with it because as long as you've given your best, you've done your job.
Yeah.
Mhm. That's
So,
the task of motherhood.
so tell us some things that you noticed when raising a son and a daughter that was like distinctively different that you needed to do or recognize between raising the two. If we're just, I know a lot plays a part with the personality, but just in general, seeing like a need that was important to instill in both.
Talking was one.
Mm-hmm.
The girls, way more verbal.
Mhm.
If something wasn't right, you knew it wasn't right, why it wasn't right, the temperature was wrong, it laid in the wrong place, it wasn't the right color, it was winter, it's supposed to have been summer. I mean, that's how girls talk. They're very verbal, communicate what they're feeling, unlike the son, where you have to you read their walk first because their walking a man is everything. Like if they mad, they walk hard, you know, or they swinging and they growling, and you're like, okay, and then you can't approach the same. You can't say what's wrong to a male child. You can say what's wrong to a female child.
Yeah.
With the male child, you have to say, man, somebody pissed you off. Yeah, it was so and so, so and so, and so they start spilling their guts. So the strategy to get the male child talking versus the female child talking was completely different, and the lineup of questions was always different as well. Once you give that just right question, like with the male child, said, you recognize it, so you talk on the side. You use the anger to ignite the conversation because those testosterons are going. And you
Yeah.
say, man, somebody didn't. And yeah, so they'll tell you the story. And then once he let you in, you keep talking, keep them talking. And that's how you figure it out. And then once you start to see some decompression, you have to see the decompression first. And then you can make a suggestion. If he's still on 1,000, whatever you say ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
With the female, with the ladies, when you're talking to them, you can get with them in midair while they talking about this should have been green. Why it should have been green? Because of blah blah blah. Well, what? Try it with the other color. So you can go back and forth with where they are. The females are because we're way more verbal, and expressive, and you just use a different strategy with the male. That's one of the biggest things.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is a distinct difference between the male and female is for the male to feel okay with expressing how he feels because he's taught not to cry. He's taught not to say how he feels versus a female. You ain't got to ask her. You ain't got to ask a girl how she feel. I'm going to let you know 5 hours before you ask me how I feel, why I feel, what made me feel. But that's another strategic approach with the male child, like, just coming in instead of saying you look sad, you could say, man, something you didn't have the best day. It looked like something just, set you off. You got to use still type of masculine type
Yeah.
conversation. And then when the male express himself, it validates it's sad or disappointment or rejection. And that's when that instinct lets you know what's going on with them. And then you can carry the conversation from, that release of whatever it is that he shared with you. You can carry the conversation. And again, when they begin to decompress, you can get some in. But if they on 1,000, you can talk to you blue in the face. He ain't gonna hear nothing you say.
Yeah. That's just
Mhm.
like it's good insight because I'm thinking like, oh, when we marry our husbands,
Mhm.
we've never encountered like it. Well, I guess I don't. I'm thinking so. Like as a mother, if you're a mother and you have a son, like you were just saying, like knowing how to approach them and have them like express their feelings, but you have to approach them in a way to get them down, like get their anger, their energy down enough for them to like be able like, okay, I know how to, or I'm upset about this or that. So like
Mhm.
if you're a mom that experiences that and then like us women going to marry a son or marry someone's son, and you don't know like it's all I'm confused myself. But it just sounds like it's all like just a learning process, because as a mom, you're learning how to work with men, but also as a wife, you're learning how to like navigate the relationship with your husband as far as like him expressing himself. So there's a little bit of understanding, more understanding, but it's like, which comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you another thing too, because I had to do this with my son. And when he got close to his senior year, and we used to have all kind of conversations. Like once I learned how to get in and wait till he decompress, and then we have a conversation, then we can talk for a long time. Because now he's in a safety zone, and I left it there. I didn't share what he was saying. But then in his senior year, he got a little quiet. And it was time for him to graduate, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? We're not having as many conversations. So I researched it. I'm like, what does a young Black man expect at the age of 18? What does he look forward to? I'm looking up, going on. It's a psychology website. It is a psychology.com. It's some other websites I went to just to see about the expectancy of men his age. And then I learned that senior year of high school, family is a really big deal to them. Like they might not say it right away. That could be a point where their interaction with family, if it was in his father's household or whatever, it could be so chaotic, could make up a decision that he think he can't have it, but he wants it, or he's been created in his head how he's going to get it. However way they're thinking, the desire is there. So when I read that, I'm like, oh, he want a family. No wonder he quiet, and so once I learned that, and I learned some other things about what young men want at a certain age, how they set their mind, because technically people still say once you graduate you're grown, but you're still 18, you're still a teenager. So the world put pressure on young men and women as if they are adults, and they are just older teens. They haven't arrived to the adult stage yet, but that thought is still there. They, this is what they have in mind: getting their own family, working for their family. If it's going to be through work, if they're going to accomplish some things through school, however way, they're processing this, they're thinking it. And so that's why relationships appear to be a little more serious than their previous playing around year. Although their hormones might say something different, they still have the thought, of family and stuff like that, and what that looks like for them, what it looks like for them to be the provider, have a wife, have their own house, their car, a possible child, what that whole scope of things look like. And so I was like, okay. So then I had to use a curveball question on that one too. And so one day I asked him, like, so when you think you're gonna get married? And when you ask a just right question to somebody, they go, um, they sit up, their eyebrows go up, and they start to think. And I'm like, ooh, that was the right question. and, and even if they bring it back down, if you see that expression, like, which also taught me that as far as he was concerned, in the back of his mind, he's like, my mom cares about me because she knew about something I wanted without him even expressing it.
Right.
And so you gotta, you got to code men. You don't have to code women. You got to code men. And so I was asking him, would you got a plan? Like, if you want to talk about it, we can always, I could just sit down and listen to what you like to do and how to map it out and try to put things in the right perspective so it don't have to be hard. Sometimes people want a family, they just jump up with the family with no money. We can always like talk it out and help you put things in the right perspective so you can plan one day, like, don't hunt nobody down because you got to find somebody that wants a family too. So, because this takes two legs, and he was like, okay, okay. And the excitement said, you asked the right question. And I was like, thank you, God, because it was hard picking him apart. And I'm saying this for probably a whole wealth of other mothers that's raising male children. That you got to decode them. You got to peel them back like an artichoke to try to get to what's really going on the inside. But objectively, it built a trusting conversation, whether he followed his plan or not. If there's something that he really needed, he knew we could talk about it because we had already been in that space.
Yeah.
And if he decided to make a hard left turn, that was his choice to make the hard left. He already knew. So, and then that's the other mothering part is if they decide to run into a light pole, let them crash.
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing to do, but yeah. So yeah, it's just the strategies. It really comes from the individual. It could be the male and female aspect, and it could also be their personality and their character. It's just the makeup of the individual that either gives you the room or lets you know, I don't want what you got. I'm gonna do my own thing.
So that leads me into asking, what kind of pointers would you give to moms or even just parents in general about managing the personality differences between their children, and trying to keep certain things not from rubbing off on the other, like, you have some children that are, in the grocery store throwing temper tantrums, and then you got, your attention seekers, and then, so you got to keep in mind about the quiet ones. So you got to keep in mind what those children are seeing the other ones do.
Mm-hmm.
And also just tending to, their needs as well. Just what some pointers overall would you say on balancing the personality differences and relationships between them?
Well, one of the biggest part of that assignment is learning what personality they have and what it is they're trying to demand from you. And if it's reasonable to accommodate, or if you have to set some boundaries to it.
Mm-hmm.
So for, say, for instance, the attention seeker, if you know you're going to go to the store and you got a child that wants all the attention, they can push the buggy and you have a grocery list and you can tell them what to go get. So that's satisfying to them because it's like I'm in charge. I feel like I'm a part of this. And, you can be in a frozen food section, find the green beans. Oh, they in charge. I got the green beans. And so that's fulfilling. That calms that down. The temper tantrum, it depends on what the tantrum is about because sometimes kids want to grab everything. So initially, sometimes going in the store, you have to put something in their hand.
Yeah.
And if the one child grabbed the green beans, the other child can hold the green beans. Just try to find how they all can participate. Sometimes you're going to find some that they just want to clown because we're in the store and people looking at them. I mean, you got one of the heart aching parts about bringing children into the world is sometimes they might come in here with a behavior disorder. They might have come in here with a personality disorder. They might be, bipolar, schizophrenic, narcissistic, all of those things. And then we also have to be careful that some can come into the world like that, and sometimes we can make them.
Yeah.
I learned that about narcissists. Like, narcissist is not always a genetic disorder. Sometimes when a child is given excessively and they grow up, that they think that they're supposed to have, not even really having a desire for it, but you give it to me always before anybody else, and I got to be number one. And so that shaping was wrong. That shaping, as a parent, got them all off course. So we have to balance. We have to learn that personality, that character, and we have to make sure that we are working to accommodate. And sometimes that accommodation is no. You can hold this, and I would like for you to hold. Can you hold this one, or can you hold this one? And let them choose. I'll hold that one. Okay, hold this. And then you just kind of work your crew through the store where everybody can have a part. That's reasonable,
Yeah.
trying to accommodate. And then for some that just ain't going to act right, either leave them at home or you have leather waiting on them when they get there.
Yeah, a good point, and to kind of touch on something Adrian was saying, I think a lot of times, not us, but I believe there are some parents that really aren't considering when they raise children, when they tend them every day, and throughout the day, the interaction you have with them, what you're pouring into them, that you are raising this soul to be out in this world as an adult, that you are raising someone's wife, someone's husband,
Yes.
someone's mother, someone's father. And so, there's certain things that people may not understand, as to your point, when you start noticing certain things about them and their personality and start saying, okay, I see the way they're dealing with this. I'm going to have to really push them to be prepared to be a wife, because right now they're not really doing this. And I know this is something that they're more than likely going to need to be able to do,
Exactly.
for a husband. If you can't expect to raise someone's husband or a strong dad if you're not teaching them how to be emotionally available, not only to their daughter, but to their wife, or giving them this immense amount of pressure to just do without making that they learn what that looks like, how to ask for help when needed. Even the girls, sometimes they aren't really raised or taught to say, do you need help? Learning how, and I think that's a lot of times some of the pressure that goes into marriages that are very early on, is because you go into this marriage not knowing how. And you, some of them, depending on the age, because there's always this transitional period when you're really young, when you don't want to try to ask your parents, but you really do need their, and I'm sure that's dependent upon what the relationship looked like coming up. But there's a lot of things that now you just walking right into, need to know how to do, or have this pressure, not only, most probably really mainly on yourself, feeling like now I need to know how to do all this stuff.
Yeah. That's
So
that too. And then there's also think about, like, if mothers and mothers and fathers, but mothers are, we're the most skillful, just be honest. If mothers don't teach the child themselves, they grow up miserable.
Yeah.
And they just can't seem to center themselves or find happiness for themselves, or know what it is to genuinely do things that they like, to go into a profession that they love, or they happen to love shrimp, not chicken, because they love it, not forced to. If you don't really center a person to be true to themselves, what are they going to do but saying I do to somebody else? Because they don't know joy, they don't know peace, they don't know love. It's all compromise. And so sometimes people grow up in misery. That's one of the disadvantages also of the child that won't take instruction when they're a child, and when they get old, they don't have instruction. And they're not miserable. They are extremely miserable, because now they lived a life of lack, by their choosing. And then you grow up into adult life and things look so foreign because you missed so much as a child. So a lot of things, there are some parts that have to do with the mom and the raising, and there are some parts that have to do with the child and their selection. They're deciding to follow instruction, or deciding to take the support of the parents to help them to get there and identify themselves and be proud of the accomplishments that they made. And the mom and the dad is pointing out things for them to engage in, which really brings them out to be who they are and the best of who they are. So it's a couple of parts that plays the role in it. But if if the parent happen to lack and a child keeps growing, if they're determined, they'll get what they need. But there are some, like, it's like it's more than one basket in this situation. But if some instruction is given, you have something to start with. You have something to go with. But if you live a life of a rebel and you got truth in front of you, you're doubly miserable. So it just makes it hard for happiness, or hard to come together, hard to try to figure things out, or you know, get what you can and then add on to what you have as you grow older.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think we've covered the majority. I had another bullet point about creating balance, but I think you've kind of touched on that as well.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a, you know, like a final word that you just want to encourage our mothers, period, overall, then, you know, you have the floor.
Yeah, well, I'll say one of the most critical time and spaces we have to learn who our child is when they're toddlers, because they're free spirits at that time, and so they, you know, they learn through play, and when we're watching them play, we learning who they are, you know, and that really prepares us to raise that person, you know, to do what they like. You know, say for instance, a child have a tendency to always go toward the drums. You know, you can have a million toys out there, but they navigate to them drums. Pay attention to what they are drawn to and shape them that way. That's how they become more fulfilling. And then I will forever and always say, consult your creator, consult God, because he made us all. He knows how many cells in our body, strands of hair, you know, teeth, how many we're gonna have when we leave, how many we're gonna have, you know. He's talking about knowing everything about us. And we can't take a pride against him thinking we know everything. Just, Lord, I don't know what to do right here. He'll tell you.
Yeah.
He give you what you need. So make it a conversation. And then as a parent, whatever it is that you find within yourself that you don't have, because initially, you know how you have that your firstborn and your second born is the love of your life, and you can't even imagine yourself saying no, you need to.
Yeah.
So if you find yourself having a hard time with that, like, God, give me the courage. For their sake and for mine. Like, I don't want to have to say no, but I know no is good. I need courage right here.
Yeah.
And then you would be given that courage or for whatever else that you might need. But the objective is you're telling him, I take what you've given me serious. You've given me a whole person with a whole soul, mind, heart, spirit. And they come with gifts, they come with talents, they come with all of these things for me to discover and have to work out in them for your glory. I need help. So, you know, never be afraid. Don't hold your tongue. Take it to the throne. Look at where you are in parenting. You know, make sure that whatever it is that you're sharing with them is good for them, not just because that's the way you came up or that's
Right.
the way you saw it. Because there's so many different personalities does not mean that somebody else's personality is fitting for the child that you brought into the world. So you can't remake grandma. And just because you named your daughter after Rachel, because your grandma name was Rachel, don't mean she should be Rachel, you know. But yeah, raise that spirit and watch the success of it. You know, nothing more fulfilling than to be engaged in something that you love. And that would be the advantage we give our child, is raising them to be who they are.
Yeah.
Well, that was good. Well, everybody, let's round of applause for Dr. Mama T.
Yep. Any other questions for me, ladies? I can talk your head off. I really can.
I'm pretty sure we have some more. Oh, yeah. Y'all, I was about to just end everything and go to sleep. Dr. Mama T is a published author. Can you tell us a little bit about your book before we let you go?
Oh, absolutely. I would absolutely love to. So, as a part of my dissertation for, you know, working toward my doctorate degree, I published the work from the dissertation, and the topic is climbing the ladder of the soul. So the book is an introduction, like it could be an encyclopedia, but not yet. But it's an introduction to um, all readers or all creation or whoever get their hands on it to understand the work of the soul. So one of the things that the scripture really brings to light and understanding ourselves in more than one part is that Genesis passage when it says, and God breathed the breath of life into man, and man became a living soul. And so in that passage, a lot of times people don't see the individuality of what is taking place here. You got man, and then he breathes the breath of life, and then he said he becomes living, a living soul. So there's activities physically, spiritually, and the soul. And so once we become acquainted with some of the experiences that we have, and I know I keep hearing people saying they didn't know how to say or share with people they was having these different types of experiences because they didn't want people to think that something was wrong with them,
Yeah.
which is typically how you feel when you feel like you can't share. But it's basically to introduce to people that your soul is talking to you when you have these dreams, when you have these prophecies, when you have these visions, when you have these deja vus. This is God's way of communicating with us. This is spiritual activity. So, we shouldn't necessarily look for God to come through our door with a three-piece suit on and a Kango hat and a cane. But he has his way. And when we read scripture, Moses on the mountaintop and he's having this conversation with God, he was in spirit and so was God. So he's communicating, understand this is God's way of communicating. And this is a way that in which we're supposed to learn what our spiritual gift is, embrace our spiritual gift, like learn what it is to work and function in it, because all gifts are given for the building of the kingdom and for somebody else that needs what you have. So it's an introduction, climbing the ladder. There's a rung in the ladder, and there's another rung, and there's another rung. So we still have ways to go, but it offers some really good conversation and enlightenment to help people understand themselves, their unique self, as God created us.
Good. And so, where can people find this book?
So right now the book is on Amazon. Climbing the Ladder of the Soul. I do have a ebook. What you call it? Ebook? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You can get it electronically or you can get the paperback. And right now I have a publisher working with the book, and they're doing a fantastic job. I'm working on, they've also developed a website for me, which is Tracy Times, but it also talks about climbing the ladder of the soul. And hopefully it will be finished by the end of March, I'm hoping for. But then that would be another avenue to purchase the book and find out. It gives information about myself and the purpose of writing the book and all of those good things. But I'm really, really praying that God push it out there to his people so people can realize that they are valued. God has invested in them, and every part of them has significance. And this is not a Pentecostal, Jehovah Witness, Baptist, Catholic. It's not that book. It is God's word in writing that speaks to all creation. We're not working denomination. We're working with something that we all have, which is a soul.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. So I'll make sure to put the link to get the book from Amazon
Yes.
in the description. And then
Thank you so much.
I'm gonna put the website on there too, just because it's a beautiful site. I love
I was excited too. I'm like, ooh, that looks really nice.
Yes,
And also, if anybody catches on soon enough, we have a spiritual gift workshop that's coming up March 23rd at 950 Westport Plaza. And we're going to be talking about dreams, visions, deja vu, spiritual gifting, and different things like that, so people can become acquainted with themselves, discover themselves. And of course, this was put together by your host, Tiara Johnson. And so we're hoping for this to be workshop 1 and look to prepare for workshop 2, so we can strengthen the kingdom, and people can stop being leery about themselves and be unafraid, learn what it is to use the gift and build people, build the kingdom. Thy kingdom come, thine will be done on earth. Bring it to earth. Absolutely.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. So I'll make sure to have all of that information linked down in the description. We thank you again, Dr. Mama T, for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I really, really enjoy talking about it or talking to anybody. Once they get the book, if anybody that purchased the book wishes to talk further about it, please make some comments or something, because it is really, really important to not just read, but further your understanding. And so I would love to talk further about the book, and then, even share where I get my wisdom from, share the dean and the rabbi at Corn Institute and what it is to learn yourself unapologetically and be who God created us to be.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I absolutely love it. Well, that's all I got. Ain't got no more. That's it. What about you? That's it. That's all. All right. Well, before we get up out of here, let's go ahead and tell them, like we always say, a good thing is not hard to find,
but it takes work to keep it.
Until next week, we will
see y'all next week,
later.
y'all.
Thank you to this week's highlight, Dr. Tracy Times. Dr. Times is a published author with her first book release, Climbing the Ladder of the Soul. In this book, she covers exploring past lives, cosmic connections, and the divine blueprint of a person's destiny. Dr. Times is a fierce spiritual leader, mother, and woman of God that desires to teach others more about connecting to their soul. She'll be one of 3 teachers leading at the upcoming Spiritual Growth Workshop, March 23rd, hosted by the Cohen Institute. All information will be down below, so make sure to check her out.